Hey everybody, and welcome to the Monday meeting again with Abby and I, and hope you're all doing well, and you're all safe, and you're all looking after each other from approximately 2 meters apart at the moment. But yeah,
anyone at
or
all.
just not seeing anybody, staying home and staying
Preferably.
safe. Where we are right now, obviously. Welcome to my kitchen and my tin cabinet
I
here.
feel like we should do a cribs episode at some
Cribs
point.
episode. This is generally where the magic happens for me. Just baking mostly.
Yeah, we're going to clarify that you mean the kitchen.
Yeah, of course. That is where most of my magic happens, in the kitchen. I'm a chef.
Yeah.
But yeah, welcome. What are you doing? It's Monday.
Well, I wanted to point out that today I have taken the next step of, obviously last time we brought up the fact that you could see my sister playing Animal Crossing in the background of my video. And today I've moved the plant out the way so you can get a full-blown view.
Why don't we just skip?
So actually this is a let's play.
Just skip all of the steps and just go straight to your sister just streaming Twitch to our community.
Yeah, I mean, essentially what we've decided, I was speaking about this with my brother and sister, is like, instead of setting up Emma an actual account, we're just going to use the Monday meeting to essentially do her weekly Twitch stream.
Fair.
Instead.
So
she's
got Patreon yet? Can we donate to her Patreon?
Of course. She has actually completed the game now. Well, okay, she'll say, she'll probably say in the background, no, I haven't. But she's finished the storyline a bit now, so she's well and truly on her way to being a complete pro.
Completist on Animal Crossing.
For any gamers out there who have seen or know of Animal Crossing, then I hope you enjoy spectating this in the background.
It looks exciting.
I've lined it up specifically so that people can see.
It's fun. And you haven't caught up with her yet then? You've been playing? Not as much.
No, I haven't really been doing it as much. So essentially I've been holding off to the weekends to do saving a puzzle for each weekend. So most of my weekend is consumed by doing a puzzle.
How far did you get with the last one?
I finished it. I've got a really weird knack for puzzles. My brain just works when it comes to puzzles. And it was in 2 days, to be fair. I'm not that good, but it was a very hard one. At some point, if there's that much demand to see it, I will crack it out and hold it up to the camera, hold my weekly one up to the camera.
And then it will fall apart. What are you doing? Are you one of those people who glues it once you've done it? Okay.
On a board. So I can hold it up slightly and then probably hold the top and it'll probably stay together. But maybe that's the thing. Maybe we'll start doing a show and tell and in these Monday meetings.
I can show off my brownies. I got my brownies.
Yeah, I also baked this weekend actually as well.
What did you bake?
So me and my sister, we cooked a lot actually. So we helped. My mum made banana bread so she works at
just like everybody is right now. Yeah.
But she took hers into her hospital to
nice.
Have out. And then me and my sister made caramel cake. Which is like
weird
a tiered cake with you have to make actual caramel as in sugar, butter, milk in the pan and stuff, and then you make it with ice and sugar to make a caramel frosting. It's really nice. It was a really, really nice cake. So yeah, we did that yesterday as well.
Very unhealthy.
Oh yeah, I actually still can't eat after yesterday. But yeah, no, you baked too. I saw.
I made white chocolate, Nutella, and sea salt brownies. Sounds quite pretentious, but honestly,
sea salt is pretentious. You just kind of.
I'm never having a brownie without sea salt ever again. It's so nice. I don't know what it does. It's like there must be some science to it where I saw a documentary once where they were talking about foods that shouldn't go together but do because chemically they react well, and it's like chili and chocolate and cheese, and I feel like chocolate and sea salt is also one of those things because
it's like salted caramel.
Salted caramel, exactly. It just they're good, too good. The reason I'm not going to show and tell them is because a large portion of the tin is already gone, and I only made them on Saturday.
And you do live by yourself at the moment, so
yes, kind of. There is no excuse. I could pretend that I gave them to the neighbours by throwing them to different balconies, but that didn't happen. I just threw it directly into my life.
Do that next time, though. Lobby.
Yeah, I might do that. I don't know what the health risk is of just delivering food that you've made to other people, but
as long as you disinfect the packaging that it came in.
I thought you were about to say disinfect the brownie. Just cut it up and then just
some Dettol on it.
This may taste different, but enjoy. Disclaimer: do not Dettol any of your food products. No. So that's what I did, and then I made a roast, which I don't think I've made in this flat a roast properly yet. So it was kind of a new venture for me. But oh my God, it was one of the best roasts I've had. And my mum's roast is amazing, as I say every single time on every single episode. But I was chuffed. I was actually probably proud. It was really good. I want to have it again, but it's quite an effort.
How did you manage the portion sizes? Because that's the one thing that I'm really struggling with here. So essentially, me and my brother have been splitting the cooking for, like, doing the cooking for all of us since we're back.
There's 4 of you, right?
And there's 4 of us here. Yeah. And the real struggle I've had is like upscaling my meal size from like 1 to 4. Like, I can't do it. I end up either doing way too much and we've got like enough for 2 each, or I've literally got enough for like 2 people.
I don't know.
Struggling with the balance. And I did a roast I cooked a roast yesterday as well. And there's like leftovers for us all to eat again.
Well, I think I eat like the amount of like 1.5 people anyway, probably. And so if I get it slightly too much, it's actually just an ideal portion size. Like, there were 2 whole roast potatoes left at the end, and I didn't put them on my plate, but then at the end there was still leftover gravy. So it's like, I'll eat those. I don't want to waste it. It feels wasteful in
these times, for sure.
These times,
right? Eat everything that you don't waste anything.
Exactly. So that was fun, but then I burnt myself a lot. So I burnt my 4 fingers here. That really hurt. I don't know if you can see that.
Could not see it now.
You can, yeah.
Like, maybe more of a comparative angle would help.
I don't know if you could do
that.
No,
I can't see.
No, it doesn't work. And then yesterday, while doing the roast, I burnt my thumb on my other hand. So I now have a full set of burns, and I'm slightly worried about these guys now for the next week, but we'll see. But yeah, I can't film the ends of my fingers properly, but I can successfully rob a bank. So I'm not getting caught.
If there was ever a time to do that, now is the time. So
true, although no one's got any money, so there's probably nothing there. Also, all digital now, so you'd end up in the vault and just be like, right, there is literally no cash.
There's nothing in there.
So that's my plans for next week's Goppered. But yeah, it was mostly baking and cooking.
Nice. As a lovely,
and gaming.
Classic. There you go. That's all you need, really.
Exactly.
What's your
going on in the world?
What's your topical thing for this week?
I have 2 because I always have like none until like half an hour before these calls, and then I have loads. So the first one is really topical because we're using it right now, but Zoom, as you didn't know, and that's cool because that means I can bring it up and it's totally original. But Zoom gives you, I think if you're a pro user, it gives you the ability to have a custom background. And people talk about how it's like one of the biggest flexes that you can have while you're working from home is to have a custom background, because you need to have a PC that's like powerful enough to be able to run it, and a wall that's blank enough to be able to like cast onto it. Because I can do it, and I
want you to do it now.
I'm going to see if I can do it now. Yeah, give me a second.
This is going to be the thumbnail.
It'll be really creepy. So this is me using this as my custom background. I'm just talking like I'm an omnipresent god right now from space, or like this is probably the most startup one you can do, just me by the San Fran bridge. But oh no, I've taken us off of the settings screen. Wait, I need to undo this. There we go. Anyway, so you can do it, but the genius thing is that people are creating custom videos of themselves and setting that as their background so that they can catch themselves walking in on their own meeting. It's genius. So there's a video, you've seen one, right, where there's a guy in like the doors behind him and he's just on a call, and then he himself walks in and he's like, oh, so sorry, and then just like closes the door and walks off. And it's so subtle, but it's amazing. And I just think the creativity that it's bringing out is awesome. There's one guy who like was just making tea in his kitchen behind him. It's just genius. So I might endeavor to do that.
Seen that there's a couple of people making a killing out of it, right? Selling custom backgrounds at the moment.
That's genius. That is a genius idea. I like that. Yeah, a couple of quid a time.
No one ever knew. Did you see the person that got stuck as a potato in their like a Microsoft like team meeting or something, and someone got stuck as a potato for the whole
yeah.
My sister just said she saw it too, so it's made the rounds.
It's obviously made the rounds. They're obviously covering it on TikTok. Yeah. So that's one thing, and then my smaller thing, which is really nice actually, is that I can't remember exactly what day it was. I think it was in the last week, but somebody tweeted, or the last 2 weeks, but somebody tweeted at Instagram, unsuccessfully the first time, but then tweeted it again, saying that, you know how they have the ask me a question section? It's always used for like like, no offense, but mostly attention seeking, just like, hey, ask me a question. And then people ask like, how tall are you, or whatever, like really random stuff. Somebody said, hey, look, during times like this, I think it would be a good idea to change that just for like a day and turn it into how can I help? And they had that idea, and they tweeted Instagram, and obviously they probably get millions of tweets, so they didn't see it. And then he tweeted it again later that night and included like one of the heads of product or something. And they responded, and they were like, I think it's a great idea. Anyway, they implemented it for like, I think 24 hours. And it was just really cool to see that something that's, you know, seemingly really small on a platform that has quite literally billions of users, and they're able to just implement that like straight away. And hopefully make a big difference. So yeah, I think obviously it's something that we want to be doing over the next week or so, and we'll get onto it, but it's like highlighting more people that are pivoting due to the current circumstances, and making it a success, or helping more than they otherwise have been. So so just thought it was really nice. What about yours?
So the thing I wanted to raise in this kind of section was something that you actually were part of too. So on Friday, we watched a webinar that was being hosted by Sifted. So they're kind of, I always get this wrong. Essentially, they're like the Financial Times backed like European startup media platform, essentially.
So it sounds really niche. Yeah,
it's really niche, but I'm pretty sure that's it, and I don't want to describe it wrong. So we joined a webinar that they were hosting on Friday about kind of like the state of startup funding now, and kind of what they think is going to be happening.
It was really good.
It was really good. So firstly, I just want to like touch on a couple of like the key like numbers and metrics that they like pointed out, and then we have a bit of chat about one of the things that they said as well. So firstly, the kind of like the couple of headline figures, I guess, that they gave out was that startup valuations are roughly down by about 30% over the past months because of the current crisis. The startup funding, so the amount of money actually being funded into startups at the moment, was down, I think, 22% in March. And March in general was the lowest month for funding into startups for the past 2 years. So I just thought that was like, I don't know, just super interesting and super relevant for our own fundraising journey, but also in terms of kind of like the wider ecosystem and the impact that that's having. And then I wanted to kind of drill down into a couple of specific things. So one of the key questions, and probably more relevant for people in our community, is what the impact's going to be on kind of like seed stage and early stage funding, rather than kind of like Series A and later stage VC stuff. And from what we could kind of gather, and from what we kind of had chatted about afterwards, was that funds that are newly set up and don't currently have a portfolio of startups already are in a pretty good position right now, in the sense that they have cash. They still need to get rid of that cash. They still need to fund it. They still need to use that to fund startups right now. And the big issue that they're going to see is probably in more like, depending on how new they are and how much funding they've got left, is in like 6 to 12 months time, when they want to raise a new fund. And are unable to, because of the lack of liquidity within the market in kind of like the next year or so. So I thought that was interesting, and like it spurned a question for us around like time, like strategies around timing for fundraising. Like if the money's there now and it's potentially not going to be there in 6 to 12 months, like is the thing to go and get it now or not? And that's something that we still kind of need to delve more into as well. So I thought that was worth pointing out. And then generally they didn't really touch on this too much, because essentially the webinar was made up of people venture partners from funds across Europe, but they kind of briefly mentioned like around angel investing and what the impact on that's going to be, which is obviously probably more of the remit that most people, especially in our community, are probably going to be aiming towards. And generally, the thing that I always gets brought up and flagged to like me and to us when people ask about angel investing during like a recession or a downturn or whatever, is that so long as your kind of interest rate is, or like your return is above what the interest rate of the market is, which is generally very low, then angels generally still are investing. I think there's a general like risk aversion that happens within within the economy as a whole, and I completely get that. But ultimately, if you can prove that you're going to be able to generate more cash than having your money sat in like a 0.1% interest rate bank is going to be, then that's a good return for someone. So I think, it's actually not necessarily a bad time to be a startup in this situation right now. I think that could change a lot in the next 6 to 12 months, and it will be the gulf between kind of like startup, like early stage, and kind of later stage startups will probably grow, in the sense that VCs right now are focused on supporting their current portfolio and probably not so much on helping to bridge the gap from startups that are looking for that growth funding towards kind of like Series A and later stage stuff, because their focus has to be on supporting the companies that are already within their portfolio. And I think that's going to be really interesting, what the impact of that will be over the 6 to 12 months. And the world's a different place to what it was in 2008 when we had the recession then. And I think, I just I find that whole kind of economy piece really interesting in itself, but thought it'd be worth bringing up as like a flagging piece of information. And if you are interested in like finding out more about that sort of thing, I would really suggest following Sifted on Twitter. They do really good articles about that sort of thing. They're really, really good, and they kind of focus on telling the untold stories of like the startup world. Like they not so much like following the trend of what they shout about. They actually look for genuine stories within them, and I really kind of like their writing and stuff, so I'd recommend that. But that's my
what do you think on the philosophy of like the relative valuations versus the relative value of the economy right now? So companies are going to be raising at 30% less, but if the whole economy at the same time is worth 30% less, then actually should people be as worried about raising at a lower valuation if the whole world is valued at a lower rate anyway? It's, obviously it would have been nice to raise last year while we all got a better valuation, but actually right now your next valuation will be, for those who understand what this means, a down round, which is you're raising money at a slightly lower valuation. So actually maybe now's a good, maybe this has been a good thing. It kind of resets. What's the philosophy around that?
First and foremost, I think like if there was ever a time to have a down round, I think now is an acceptable time. Over the next 12 months, there'll be a lot of people having them. I think it's just going to be the expectation, to be honest. Like I would have thought that would be the case. I do think that in terms of valuations, I think the kind of the startup ecosystem as a whole takes a bigger has a bigger impact from kind of like outside economic pressures than maybe what the actual economy is. If we have a couple of quarters of negative growth that are like 2-3%, but our valuations are dropped by like 30%, that's a big difference. We're not necessarily, just because valuations of startups are down 30% doesn't mean the economy is decreased by 30%. So I think that's worth bearing in mind. But personally, I always have the valuations are vanity metrics anyway, right? Most of the time, I think I think as long as you're getting the cash to get what you need to get done at a value that you think is actually real, then I think that there's a lot of kind of overinflation of numbers around. We saw it Notion last week. We had a valuation of what, $2 billion or something,
and it is huge. But I genuinely think, based on how early the product still feels and how many people I'm seeing using it, and frankly the stickiness of it, everyone who tries it seems to just fall in love with it. And I'm like, okay, if the valuation at that point, you're raising £50 million or dollars, which is a heck of a lot of money for the relatively small team that they have, but a valuation of $2 billion, that multiple is huge. You're giving $50 million for some small percentage point of the company. It's not if any quote unquote normal company raises $50 million, it's I'm going to give away 20, 30, 10, 5 at least kind of percent of the company to be able to raise that amount of money on average. I don't know what the actual average is, but that's the sort of numbers you'd expect. But based on that valuation, they're giving away point something percent of the company for $50 million. It just seems crazy.
Yeah, it's about, what is it? It's about 2.5%.
The multiple is 40,000 or something.
Yeah,
it's insane. So it's but yeah, sorry, I jumped in on that just because I love the whole Notion thing. But yeah. So yeah, it's crazy to see that, but also I think it's worth pointing out, because people will start to see this in the news, and I've seen a couple of tweets about it already. People talking about, we're in or like at the start of the a big recession that we thought was coming anyway, and obviously the economy's down, but this company just raised a huge amount of money, and so it can be done. Like, I just want to demystify the fact that all those conversations would not have been overnight. They would have taken 6-12 months already. And so these people that are raising large amounts of money, relatively, large amount of money to you could be £100,000 or it could be £100 million, but they're raising a relatively large amount of money. But it's not happening like right now. Most of them won't have been happening during the corona crisis. It would have been happening prior, and then the deal terms probably would have been signed almost just as this was all kicking off, and now they're allowed to announce it because the money's in the bank. So anyone who's feeling disheartened by the fact that they can go and do it and we're not getting anywhere, it's like, well, they actually did do it way before, so you can't really count that. The real examples will start to kind of show, I guess, in like a month or two's time as to what.
I think you're looking over the next kind of 3 to 6 months, and there's just all this talk of like recession-proof businesses and that sort of thing, and kind of this, funders looking for stuff that can survive this sort of downturn, that what's going to grow in a downturn. And it's in a similar kind of vein to how you've seen like Zoom's valuation massively rise because of the coronavirus situation. So like that's the kind of thing that people end up moving towards. They're looking for that. Arguably all businesses should be built to be recession proof as much as possible, but that's not always the case. So it's going to be an interesting time for the funding world, and like having not experienced it before, and like I'm really interested to see kind of what the impact of it is over the next 3, 6, 12 months. So
well, I guess that leads me on to like learnings from last week. And for me, the learning piece is related directly to the funding piece, and it's not just about funding that's changing, it's about the way companies are acting. And so for us, I think it's what we learned, thanks to the advice and feedback, the honest feedback from the community, in line with the crowdfunding campaign, which obviously we'll get to in a second with the updates on, but it is that companies are pivoting either in small ways or big ways, and seems to be, again, feeding from the insight from the call, from the webinar from Sifted, seems to be a focus on making sure that you're delivering added value and more value than ever before to your current customers. Because we had this kind of, personally, I had this like feeling, thought, assumption, strategy that actually, if you're not growing during this time, it's okay. But what will be the real metric is brand advocacy out the other side, and retention, how much they love you and how much they engage with you and how much you engage with them and what you did for them and how much value you brought. And so I think, it's like there will be certain companies that are just remote first software companies that, will fly. And that's because of obvious reasons. Zoom is obviously one of them. But then there are companies that will be able to do well out the other side if they deliver the right value during this time. So that was the learning from last week for us, is like, okay, how do we start doing that? Because we needed to make it more clear that, as well as doing the crowdfunding campaign, it wasn't just to, make it free for new people joining. It was also, and is still, hopefully we hit the target, to make it free for current members if they need it. And it's also there to help us fund the ability to deliver extra value during this time for the startups that need it the most. And that's what I guess we're putting our flag in the sand for, is to say, okay, if we do more now, then people will love us for longer and greater afterwards and through it. And so it's, it is as selfless as we can be, but there's no such thing as full selflessness. We're doing it as a company because we want to make sure that they love us just as much as we love them and we care about them. So it's I think those are the people that will win. Even if you're a retail store, or we were chatting, I think last week we mentioned a couple of members like Office Pantry, obviously switching to Home Pantry now, and True Start Coffee. They've just started delivering that around my local area of Bristol, and Ben from Novel Wines, who I'm interviewing later, started doing local deliveries in Bath and for free, and so on. And so all those things are happening because they're delivering that extra value. So that was my learning from the last week, was do more for the people who you already work with if you can. It will pay dividends over time, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I was like, so we had like a conversation end last week, because I had a call with Hui, who runs, is the founder of a company called ZB. and we've known each other for like just over a year now.
Mm-hmm.
And ZB is essentially a kind of like a community platform. It's got more like an events community, where she runs like meetups for just kind of anyone, generally in London, around kind of different themes. It's all very social, it's quite fun, and yeah, like she's really, really cool. They've really started to build up quite like a chunky community over the past like year or so. And then obviously there are no events running right now, and I kind of reached out to her to have a chat because obviously all of our events are gone, and so I was interested to see how she was engaging with her community at a time like this, and how there could be some shared learnings between the two of us. And so we had a really interesting conversation off the back of that, and we were talking about content, and they're doing this thing where they're doing like daily Instagram lives at like 7 p.m. every day. They're doing like a in conversation with kind of piece where like someone's teaching everyone Portuguese. They've got like a drag queen from London talking about her like story, and like there's all this sort of kind of stuff. And I just thought it was really, really cool, and like how they're trying to navigate this kind of new space and keep the community engaged with there at a time when they can't do it in their traditional way. Was something that then kind of spurred us to have that conversation. And I know that you're looking to do some like, we're doing more content with like our brand partners and stuff around the different bits of advice that will help the community right now. And you're also reaching out to founders that have maybe pivoted or are doing something particularly innovative at the moment in the current like climate. And so yeah, I just think all those things are really like good value adds at the moment. And it's hard, like content can sometimes be a bit of like a greenwash for things and like cover stuff up. But right now, when everyone's literally in their time, their time is spent engaging online, I think it's really important that you're kind of putting out the right sort of stuff. So that's kind of what I guess fell into kind of your learnings from last week as well. And then also the other thing I wanted to flag up was a more of a personal thing, and that it's not like maybe I don't see it when I record these like Monday meeting stuff, but that's because I kind of forget that we're recording. But I like not necessarily I'm a slightly camera shy person, I guess. And so we, for the crowdfunding
slightly. Right, let's put this in perspective. Whenever we're at an event and somebody is pointing a camera, for some reason it's always at you, but you will physically duck and dive and run away from the camera. So just so everyone knows the reality of your slight camera shyness. But go.
I think it's definitely worse for like still images. Like if I'm fine in video, I just freak out when someone's putting the camera at my face. But yeah, so I like did as Ash did kind of like nearly 2 weeks ago now, I recorded like a piece of camera about the crowdfunding campaign on Friday, and actually it was so much easier than I thought it was going to be, and like it was absolutely fine. And it was just weird. I don't like listening to myself talk. I didn't want to listen to it back, so I just sent it straight to Ash and was like, does this sound okay? And he was like, you were like, yeah. So actually it worked out fine. But I was I just wanted to touch on that as a piece of personal development from last week, and that I am in fact able to speak to a camera, even though I probably sounded actually insane. There was this ongoing joke. If anyone's seen, no one's going to have seen this, but essentially it was a funny thing between my brother and sister. I essentially, at the start of every video I recorded, I was like, hi everyone, I'm Abby, one of Vienna's co-founders. And essentially it reminded us of, which no one's going to know, is there's obviously loads of like Minecraft YouTubers out there. And there was this one in particular called Stampy, and my sister used to be obsessed with Stampy, and essentially my intro for the video sounds exactly the same as Stampy's intro. Albeit he's talking about a Minecraft Let's Play video, but still.
At least, I mean, you could change it up and go like Carol Baskin-esque.
I'm still, like, don't spoil it. I'm only about halfway through time. No, so don't spoil it right now.
You're so behind the world, but it's.
I know. I'm seeing all the memes and I'm trying to. Yeah, but
it's crazy. Just for anybody that hasn't seen it yet, it is crazy. Actually, that is an extra topical piece. Is that animal abuse aside, because that's inherently totally wrong, and that's important to note. But as a documentary, it's madness and wildly entertaining. But there's like this topical piece at the moment is that VCs, venture capitalists, on Twitter seem to be competing with each other. There was one whole Twitter thread that was so entertaining to me because and I'll try and find it so I can share it underneath the posts here, but it was like they're competing for who likes Tiger King the least, because that seems to be the hipster thing to do, is like,
of course.
And it was obscene how competitive they were getting with it, where someone was like, yeah, I got 10 minutes in and switched it off, and someone was like, oh yeah, I got 5 minutes in and switched it off, and then it got to a point where someone was like, yeah, 30 seconds in I fell asleep, and I'm like, I feel like you might need to see somebody, because that sounds
attention span.
Literally, I'm slightly worried about your attention span and maybe your health, so that doesn't sound like it's a problem with the program, it sounds like a problem for you. But yeah, so but personally, can't recommend it enough. And also there is now an Instagram filter where you can be Joe Exotic.
Wow.
And apparently there is an extra episode and or series coming out at some point.
Ooh,
so
fun. Okay.
exciting stuff.
Well, we'll leave it to next week. We'll do a proper review of the Tiger King as part of our topical
Tiger King and Startup.
Next Monday.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. I think we should, it's weird times. We can talk about Tiger King.
Yeah.
But yeah, so finally, what is it that you're focusing on this week? Except for Tiger King.
Sure. So two things, continuation of what I just said around adding value. So interviewing as many interesting people that are doing cool things right now for the world and for their own businesses and for their customers. Just try and get some cool stories and share that with the community and add as much value to the people that we currently have as possible in the time they need it most. And then the other thing is running out the crowdfund campaign, which is, just a couple of £100 short of our target at the moment. And
we're about 90% of the way there now. So we're
close.
So close. We're like so close, and we're on target to hit it, but we just need a couple more.
And a huge thank you. You can tell me if they're anonymous or not.
I don't actually know. I can't check right now, so maybe don't. We'll do a proper thank you.
Shout out names, but there were then we were tentative about hitting the target, and a couple of people put in some quite generous amounts. So huge thank yous to those people. Even if
we'll check, and then we'll say official thank yous.
We'll put a newsletter out and stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, so we're close, but we're still not there. So again, if anybody can donate or help, then please do. Or share at the very least, then that would be amazing. We're doing it, as I say, just for the good of everybody, not for the good of our own pockets. It's actually at cost, if anything. So,
and that deadline is Friday at 6 p.m.
Cool.
So
we've got
until then.
Literally 5 days.
Yeah, literally, 4 days really.
Depending on my home internet, it could be 3 days by the time this video
goes out. By this goes up, maybe even 2.
So keep an eye on social for posts and stuff, and we'll keep shouting it out. But that's me this week, is value add and crowdfund. What about you?
So again, my kind of focus is still the crowdfunding stuff, but I also we have our first virtual meetup on Wednesday.
Nice.
Which exciting. I'm really excited about. We've got Jessica Blackler, who's the founder of Jecca Black. They're like a gender-free makeup brand.
She's awesome.
She's awesome. They're very, very cool. It's a very, very cool brand. And she's going to be our fireside chat guest on Wednesday. So that's really good. I think we've got like 70 people signed up on Eventbrite alone already at the moment. And there'll be a few more dotted around in other places where people just haven't clicked that sign up link. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Actually, it's going to be.
She's got a great
really
story as well.
Yeah, it's a great story. The whole and I'm just happy to be running some form of event right now. We didn't want to rush into it massively. Like I wanted to do it right, but a lot of what we do is centered around meetups. I wanted to make sure we were still able to offer that space, and now we can offer it to everyone all over the world at the same time. So in a way, it's kind of cool. Cooler than before.
Although finding a time
we're going
to
don't, it's actually physically impossible. I think what we're going to do is I'm going to jump them around at different times of day over the next kind of couple of weeks when we do some other ones.
You're going to do a couple at 3 a.m. to be able to manage
no, I just think I might do earlier in the morning so that people can see it in the evening.
Gotcha.
So I think that's probably the plan right now. But so that's the kind of the other focus for this week is that, and I'm looking forward to it. So that should be good.
Cool. That sounds interesting. And where can people find the link for that?
I can put it in the description.
Perfect.
Down below.
So check it out there. Okay, cool. I had one more thing I wanted to touch on just before we wrapped up, which was I've been seeing a lot of stuff going around at the moment about how we're all confined at home, and so you have no excuse not to work on like your side project or your business or your hustle or whatever it might be. And I've put out some content before around how what people call hustle porn is actually really unhealthy. It kind of raises awareness about working so much that actually becomes ineffective and inefficient and becomes something that burns you out. And that's really, really not healthy, especially in a time when, right now we're all physically and mentally confused with what's happening and we're all confined to our own spaces. So I wanted to make sure that people were really aware that, yes, this is a fantastic time to learn and develop stuff. Like you're doing your development course. And yeah, I need to find a hobby. But there's personal growth stuff, and there is a chance to do things like learn a new language or learn an instrument or learn to bake or whatever. But it's also really important to say that even though we're a community that helps people start and grow businesses, that it's absolutely fine if you don't, because no one's really gone through a global, locally at the very least, gone through a global pandemic in this generation. And I say that saying myself. And so it's absolutely okay not to know what the hell's going on and to just chill for a bit or completely. It's, do what you got to do, basically, is the moral of the story, and don't let anybody tell you that you should be doing something else. I think it was just really important. I wanted to bring that up today, just to be like, it's cool if you don't know what's going on.
I just think, I kind of take it from the perspective of do things that add meaning and value to your life right now, and that might not mean picking up something entirely new. That might be going back and doing something that you used to love. Me and my sister are reading a load of old trashy young adult books right now, because that's what brings me joy at the moment, and I have no shame in admitting that. So it's just I think it's important to focus on the stuff that's going to help you get through this period of time. And if that's some form of personal development, doesn't have to be learning a new skill. It can literally just be looking after yourself.
It can be watching documentaries about people who are doing arguably very illegal things with tigers. It can be that, if you want.
It really can. It really, really can. And I would 100% recommend doing that. I think it's important to not kind of follow the crowd, and make sure that you're doing whatever it is that makes you feel better and more secure at this time.
Playing Animal Crossing.
And playing Animal Crossing. And actually, to wrap up today's Monday meeting, I really hope that for you, those of you who are here to see an Animal Crossing Let's Play, have enjoyed seeing this happen in the background. I'm not entirely sure what's happened.
She's been building a very lovely garden. The path.
Yes. Her plot is it's incredible. If people
honestly, half the time I will just it, so.
If people want to see it, I will just do an actual I'll actually get her to set up a YouTube account do Animal Crossing Let's Plays. For those of you who have been here for that, thank you. I hope you've enjoyed it. And for those of you that have been here for our Monday meeting, thank you very much for watching and sticking through to the end. We will see you next week, and stay safe, stay well, and stay home, please, everyone.
We'll see you then. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys. Bye.